Hello and welcome in to another Friday night episode of Between the Hedges. Thank y'all for tuning in, whether it's now or in the future. We always appreciate it. And we're always ready to have fun on a Friday night pick'em night. How are you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Glad to be back. I know I missed a couple recently, but get busy at sometimes. So you can't really do it all at the same time. So good to be back now.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. And yes, life gets very busy at times, as everybody out there knows. And so there's no sweat there. We've always said this is for fun, and it is fun, and we enjoy it. So just any time that we can all get on here, or two of the three of us, or even one, is just, you know, it's just all fun. So we have fun doing it, and I'm glad you're on here with me tonight. As far as everybody can see, Dad's not on here right now. He's not 100% sure if he will make it tonight, but I know he's probably watching, if nothing else, and he may slot in here at the end to give his, 2 cents worth on some of these games this week.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
but hey, Florida Hate Week. Here we are. Like we said,
Good old fashioned hate.
what are your thoughts about the game tomorrow that'll happen in less than 24 hours because we have the classic 3:30 kickoff time. What do you see going down tomorrow?
Well, I think one, it should be a night game. Because LSU gets every freaking night game, and so does Texas A&M. So hey, NCAA, this is a old fashioned hate and one of the largest cocktail parties. Why wouldn't you want it at 7 o'clock at night? Come on now. But besides that, um, tonight or tomorrow, um, I think it will definitely be one-sided. Just because Billy Napier doesn't have his two quarterback system this game, and he hasn't had it the past couple games. So um, I feel like Billy Napier doesn't really know how to run offense with just one quarterback right now. That's why he was like going to this two quarterback system, and it somewhat has worked. I mean, did well against Tennessee, did well against some other teams, but when you're playing this team right here, that ain't gonna work because
Well,
it's gonna be one sided. That's all I gotta say.
well, all we certainly hope so. I mean, the line
Fingers
kind of,
crossed.
yeah, the line kind of indicates that a lot of people think that this could get lopsided. But it's creeping down as it always does. It opens at a bigger number, and if they think it's gonna be somewhat competitive, then people start betting it down, and so here we are. And we'll get into that in a minute, but it's come down a couple points since we picked the game. Unfortunately for us, but I don't think that the line comes into play to this week. I'm not as concerned about Georgia covering. Yeah, for the sake of me being right and my pick being right, I want Georgia to cover, and that's, I'm kind of giving away my pick here, but what I'm trying to say is too, I've been having conversations this week with various people, one of them being my brother-in-law, John Mark. Shout out. Apparently, I found out that he watches this from time to time and he shared it with a couple of his work friends. So, hey, thank you.
Thank you.
We do appreciate that. Maybe we'll have to get him on here sometime. I think that would be kind of
Yeah.
fun. Because he is a huge Florida fan and I'm going to be watching the game with him tomorrow. So that's interesting, right?
Ooh.
Um, I know we're gonna go at it. We're gonna go at each other, and it's all fun and games. But he and I finally get to my point here have said this week, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing, you know, there's a huge contingent of Florida fans out there that have a lot of frustrations about Billy Napier and what he can and can't do as a coach. And clear the two obvious things that work against a Billy Napier led Florida against Georgia. Actually, I'll make it three. Um, are the fact that Napier doesn't seem to be able to coach well and have a game plan, slash, he can't, adjust situationally in a game, which
Mhm.
on the flip side, that's one of Kirby's strengths, right? Uh, and then number two, he has a really hard time developing players, he and his staff. And again, that's also one of Kirby's strengths. So you see where I'm going here. Like
Mhm.
his weaknesses are, I don't know what just happened there.
Blackout,
Anyway,
blackout on you.
yeah, my screen blacked out on me, so I don't know if that happened on the stream, but um, anyway, his weaknesses are Kirby's strengths, and then the third one would just be he's starting a true freshman quarterback this week. And he, like you, to your point, he's been going ping ponging back and forth, and it hadn't really seemed like there was a true plan or a feel for his quarterbacks, and he's supposed to be a quarterback guy. And he's starting a true freshman against a Kirby Smart led defense, which Kirby Smart and Nick Saban led defenses just seem to eat alive true freshman quarterbacks if your name is not Johnny Manziel or Trevor Lawrence, which those are two like
Or
generational
Deshaun
guys.
Watson.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson. And I don't even think Deshaun, we may have to go back and look. I don't think he faced them as a freshman. I think he was a sophomore before he
Maybe,
faced Bama. So
maybe.
anyway, but see those names even, those guys are generational guys. They were all-time greats at the college game. So it's not boat, it doesn't look well. It doesn't look too good for Florida. DJ Lagway's got all the talent. He can make all the throws. He's got all the athleticism. He could turn out to be one of those guys, but for this to be what is his second or third true start
Hmm.
against Georgia, I just,
That's tough.
yeah, I just don't see them having enough to win this game. And
Yeah.
Dad chimes in and he said UGA 38-17. So there's his prediction. I'm more
38 to
along.
7. You're giving him 17 points, Dad?
I
That's wild.
I think I think they're explosive enough though. That was gonna be
I,
my. I think,
I, I don't know.
if and I did also say this to my brother-in-law, John Mark. I was like, if they look at the Alabama film and they try to replicate some of those things in the first half, those it wasn't all just luck and smoke and mirrors for Alabama. Um, they had some success doing some real things, taking some shots. I don't know if Florida's got the receivers though.
Mhm. I'll challenge that by saying we're at that point where we are playing better and we're playing to the standard of how we're supposed to be, which is national champions. So we're getting to that part of the season where our defense, especially our offense, is still shaky. It's got some room to grow, and so does our defense. But with how young we are and how disciplined our defense has been, I have a hard time thinking. that they would get 17 points out of our defense. Like that is a stretch to say. Um, so to challenge your understanding on that, or your saying on that, the our defense is trending up and going in the right direction, while their offense has been kind of like this way, and then it's gone down, and it's back up, and it's gone down, and I think it's going down even more now because they don't have Mertz and Lagway to use. So I I just don't see them scoring more than a nine, really, 9 or 10.
So you see this as what would your score prediction be?
I would say probably about 42-10 or maybe 45-10, something like that. I don't see them passing 10 points just because of either field goals or maybe one touchdown late, and we just hold them to a field goal the rest of the game prior to that. Or they just kick field goals and it might be 12 max, I would say.
Okay. And all right, so I would say I'm like in between y'all two, you and Dad on this prediction, if you will. Um, I see it as a 40 41 to mm, yeah, maybe 17. Yeah. I mean, at most, like you said, I either they're gonna have a couple of explosive plays that they hit, or they're gonna wiggle free from somebody because we have had trouble tackling. Although, as
Yeah.
of late, to your point, the defense has looked better, so we're allowed to adjust what we say and how we feel. The offense is
Mhm.
coming along, and the defense is coming along. And here's the big thing: we're getting healthy at the right time. And so
I was about to say too. Yeah,
it's
we're
like
healthy.
we're doing this right here. It's just a steady increase, or if you want to look at it this way, steady, we're trending in the right direction at the right time, which is what you want, which is what Kirby wanted, what he expected. It's just what championship level teams do. And I'm not saying we're going to go win the national championship. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know that that's going to happen. Do I think it's going to happen? Yeah, I think odds are we make it to the playoff, which we have the highest chance out of anybody to make it to the playoff right now after our win against Texas. So you're telling me Georgia has a chance? Who beats them? Who beats us in the playoff? I mean, there are teams
I-
right now that I don't know. Like there's a lot
Yeah,
of I don't know.
and there is a lot of I don't know, and that's the great thing about this playoff. And I'm glad we've gone to this because there's a lot of I don't knows because there could potentially be four SEC teams in the playoff. Like the
It
top three are Texas A&M, Georgia, and Texas. And then the next three are Tennessee, Alabama, and
Ole Miss
Ole Miss.
or
So,
or LSU.
or,
It's one of
or
those.
LSU. Yeah, LSU. Um, and LSU and Texas A&M still have to play. Alabama still has to play Texas A&M as well,
No,
I think.
LSU played Texas A&M this last week, and Texas
That's right.
A&M won.
Sorry. Uh, Texas has to play Texas A&M still. That's the last game
Mhm.
for. them. So I there's a chance. All I gotta say is I've talked to a lot of people from work and then customers from work. Like there is a solid chance that there could possibly be four, maybe five SEC teams in this playoff,
I
just based
think
off
yeah.
just how the conference is. Like it's so stacked. Like it's not even funny. Like there
No.
could potentially be a three-loss SEC team in the playoff.
Well, if there are five, there's absolutely going to be a three loss team because to that point, if there's four,
Yeah, that
same
fourth might be a three-loss team.
because everybody's just cannibalizing everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Georgia still has to beat Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida tomorrow, and
Mm-hmm.
we can't sleep on Georgia Tech, who is better. That's not an SEC opponent, but still, if we lose that game, we could have a third potential loss or a second potential loss on our resume. And yeah, so I let's give a couple of quick keys to the game and then let's move on to our picks for this week. So
Okay.
as we've been doing so far, you first, give me two keys to the game if you got two.
Um, I would say one would be um to see how our offense is after the week off. Hopefully that uh revamps and get brings some energy to our offense, especially with Trevor Etienne. Using him more. We've been using him a lot more recently, and I think we need to continue with that. Because he reminds me a lot of Sony Michelle and a mix of Nick Chubb and somewhat Todd Gurley. So he's a mix of those three that because they all could catch, they all run like crazy. But that would be one to see how our offense is. Are they going to be consistent? Like Dad has said all year, are they going to be consistent and disciplined? And then the second key for me would be um, turnovers, either side, uh, eliminating turnovers on our side or penalties on offense, and then causing turnovers and stupid targeting calls on our defense,
Yeah.
which,
No,
it's football soft now, so you never know.
yeah. Those are two great ones. To your point about the targeting, we do have two guys out the first half this week. Um, Dan Jackson
Dan the
and
man,
and then
um, wasn't it his backup too?
well, we rotate so many guys, so it's hard to call anyone a backup. But gosh, who was it? Hold on one second, guys.
Drawing a blank.
Yeah, why don't you look at that for me? And then
All right.
I'll go on with my point while you look for that. But my two keys to this game, um, hit it's got to be us coming out with just this swagger and just an aggression, right? So we've got to come out like we did against Texas, regardless of this opponent not looking anything like Texas. The environment won't necessarily feel like the Texas game because a lot of people called that a national championship atmosphere. So, but this is a rivalry game. This is a rival that we've had down. We've held them down primarily the most of the last several years. And we don't want to let up on that at all. So definitely got to come out with swagger and aggression, number one. And I think that leads to number two on defense, just causing havoc, the havoc rate. Kirby, you heard Kirby say that a lot the years that we won the national championship. It's not
Mm-hmm.
all about sacks and turnovers. Those are great, like we got against Texas, and they always help, and that's always the goal. But Kirby also said, "Are you creating havoc? Are you getting pressure on the quarterback? Are you affecting him? Are you making him think more than he should? Are you hitting him? Are you letting him know you're there and that we're here?" And it's like, this is our game. You're gonna play our game, and we're not going anywhere. We're gonna be the dominant team. So those would be my two keys. And if we do those two things, I don't see this going the wrong way for us. Florida's struggled too much in too many of the key areas in the game. And so, it's not for a lack of talent. And I've said this plenty too. I hate to keep bringing up John Mark, but we do talk a lot about football, obviously, when we're together. We're together weekly, and so uh, it's not a lack of talent problem for Florida. It's a coaching problem, and he agrees.
It
So,
really is. It's a coaching problem. Like my shout out to my coworker Jared Arrington. Um, he's a Florida fan as well, and me and him just are talking about this the whole time and this whole season. He's saying everything that uh John is saying. That it's not the players, it's the coaches. Like what Billy Napier has brought to that program has truly ruined that program. I feel like and there's too many coaches not knowing what to do. There's it's just chaos in Gainesville, Georgia right now. Just
yeah,
chaos.
Gainesville, Florida.
Or yeah, that's what I meant. Gainesville, Florida.
I got you.
Um,
I know what you meant.
yeah, there's so many same cities, countries. So it's crazy. But anyways, it's just I I'm just glad I'm not a fan of them because I would just be miserable. I really would.
It's
I'd be
hard.
miserable.
It's hard not to be miserable. The other guy that we're missing, I found it this week, um, is Aguero.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So we've got Dan Jackson suspended for the first half uh, due to the targeting, and then we also have Aguero. So
Yeah.
we're without those two in the first half, and something to keep an eye on. We have Tate Radledge, who's probable, which that's the first time he's shown up as probable since he injured himself
Mhm.
in the Kentucky game with the ankle. So that's huge. And then Jordan Hall is also probable on the defensive line. And then um, key loss for us would be uh, Smile London, who's out, and Branson Robinson again, who's out with his knee. Um, Other than that, we have the usual suspects that have been out all season, whether due to injury or discipline, suspension, what have you. So, all right. Well, um, let's let me get this pulled up here. Let's get into the 6 games that we have on the slate this week that we're picking. And
Which is quite interesting.
It's an interesting, yeah, selection of
Mm.
games.
And just a quick take that I will say with our picks and our pick'ems standings. As far as for you, um, if it weren't for uh, 3 weekends where you went down bad, then it would be a lot closer for all three of us. I feel like the fact that, but I always look at it as a positive aspect because you're competitive in 7 of the 10 weeks, or about to be 10 weeks, compared to 3 out of 10. Like you were bad in 3 out of 10. So, I mean, I just look at it as a positive regardless. So regardless of what the standings have looked, all of us have been competitive 100%.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate you saying that because I mean, sometimes you pick these games and you're like, dang, well, am I just stupid? Because they don't
Right.
turn out that way. But no, I
All
mean,
right.
I know that. So appreciate that. But yeah, like we've gotten into the Georgia Florida game. Georgia opened as a 16 and a half point favorite this week against Florida. And as you can see, we're all taking Georgia to cover that, which I'm not going to say is surprising, but I thought somebody might take the points because that's a lot of points. That's the most points on the board this week of the games that we're picking. Um, but we all kind of given our prediction for the score. So obviously we think that Georgia covers and Georgia moves to 7-1, and we're just one step closer to Atlanta, and all of our goals are in front of us, right? So
100%.
moving on to a game that everybody is thinking will be the game of the weekend, right? Ohio State going on the road to play Penn State. Ohio State's favored by 3.5. And as you guys can see, myself and Dad are going with Ohio State. Matthew, you're the odd man out. You're going with Penn State. So tell us why you picked Penn State this week.
It's at home. I think personally they are the better team right now. Because Ohio State struggled pretty bad against Nebraska at home, mind
Hmm.
you, against a very young Nebraska team with a great, I say great quarterback, potential great quarterback. I'll say that. Um, and they barely beat them. And Ohio State hasn't really looked that good to me. I know they're the number 4 team. So I don't know. I have more faith in Penn State because they've been the most consistent all year. So I'm going with consistency and all around better team, more disciplined team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hear you on all of that. I personally went back and forth on this game quite a bit. This is the game that I was hung up on because Dad texted like he always does, I need your picks. And I was like, I ended up calling him like not that long after, and I was like, have you like heard anything about Penn State's quarterback? Because like I hadn't looked yet. Because he's questionable and he's questionable up until game
Mhm.
time. I think it sounds like he'll give it a go, according to that same injury report that I was just looking at. He's listed as questionable, but the feel is that he'll play. But to me, if he's not 100%, I don't think that Penn State has enough. They will be at home. Penn State is getting the point, so Ohio State has to win by a touchdown, really, for um, myself and Dad to be right. I mean, I guess they could win 35-31 and we would get that right, but uh, a touchdown would be better. So I don't know. Penn State has been more consistent. They're undefeated. They're at home. They're getting points. I get all of that. Um, they've looked better for the most part, but Ohio State has the better roster. Um, now the my only concern is that Ohio State's quarterback, even though he is healthy, I still don't completely trust him. But
He hasn't done that well
yeah,
either.
he's not banged up though, so I give him the nod because he's got, he's got the keys to a Ferrari on offense essentially. I mean, those guys, the receivers and backs are just, they're loaded, and he just doesn't have to screw it up. I mean, that's it. I mean, as long as he doesn't screw up, they're gonna win most games. Um,
Yeah.
I'm concerned about Ryan Day. He hasn't seemed to win the big games, but neither has James Franklin since he's been at Penn
Yeah.
State. I mean, he's
But
one
I
in
feel like,
12. Hold on. He is
sorry.
1 in 12 against Ohio State. Hi-
Hey,
His one win was in 2016. It's been
so that
eight
means it's due
years.
times. It's due. It
Well,
is due.
either he's due or Ohio State just continues the
It
streak, right?
continues. Yeah.
So, for
It,
that reason, I went with Ohio State. I feel
yeah.
like they just have their number. So,
Yeah. I mean, I was going back and forth too with this game. Um, but in my eyes, yes, will Ohio State's quarterback. It's not that consistent. He has been struggling, even though he's got crazy receivers, and they haven't really been able to run the ball. So if Penn State can force them to run the ball when and they struggle with it, Penn State's got this in the bag because they can't run the ball like they used to.
when
Um,
I would think the other is true also. I think you're onto something though. If Penn State makes them one-dimensional, that makes it really hard for Ohio State because Ohio State wants to run the ball with Chip Kelly. That's what he likes to do because he's the
mhm,
offensive coordinator now. Um,
mhm.
but you're right, they haven't had a whole lot of success with that, even though they do have two outstanding backs. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it will be a good game, and that's their early game. It's a noon game. So,
Which I think
um,
is stupid as well. And that the the committee or whoever, not the committee, the NCAA has got to get these times right for these big games. Like
well, it's the networks and it's the conferences because like we were talking
it's
about this too
crazy.
this week. It they set the TV schedule, and that's what you led the show with that. I was gonna say, okay, um, you sounded a lot like Lane Kiffin. I was gonna say, okay, Lane Kiffin, but I mean, he's got a point. Like Ole Miss won't will have a whole slate of home games that won't be at night this whole
Right.
season. Um,
Right.
and
And they
Georgia
should.
may be the same because who's gonna be the home night game? Tennessee, maybe, but Tennessee hasn't looked great, and they may lose
Yeah.
another game, so they may slot us up to the 3:30 or the 4:15 or so
Hmm.
anyway, but I will be locked in on this Ohio State Penn State game because it's the best noon game of this whole slate, but not to be overshadowed not to overshadow the next game. Ole Miss on the road going to Arkansas. and Ole Miss is favored by 7.5. You and I have Ole Miss, so I kind of wish Dad was here to give his reasoning on Pig Suey. But I would imagine he's betting on that defense at home showing up and keeping this game close enough to where Arkansas covers. That's what I would imagine he's thinking. Um,
Ain't gonna happen, pal.
Look, it's been a
Hmm.
love-hate relationship with Ole Miss for me, with Kentucky, with South Carolina, with Michigan, who's back on our schedule, um, our slate of games rather, and a couple other teams. But I don't know. I think I think Jackson Dart and Ole Miss have too much on the line to screw around and have it be close and potentially lose to Arkansas because they
Yep.
have zero room for error.
Because
Um,
if they lose this game, they're definitely gonna lose against us.
well,
Well, not us, against Georgia,
right. But
potentially.
they have to win out.
Yeah,
They have to win
that's the
out.
thing. They have to win out, which is the
Now,
crappy part for them.
Now, I don't think they're beating Georgia, not just because I'm a Georgia fan. Like, just it just doesn't look good
Yeah.
for them to do that, right? At the beginning of the season, I had some pause. I honestly, I thought, well, maybe, these three road games for us are going to be tough, and we're 1-1, right? We're
Hmm.
1-1 so far. So either we'll be 1-2, or we're going to be 2-1. Would much rather be 2-1, and that's how it's looking. It's trending that way. But Ole Miss, man, you got to come out. Like I said, keys for
Firing.
Georgia, come out firing, have some swagger. They just look so tight this year. It's
Hmm.
like the expectations are getting to them and to Lane Kiffin. He's just so anxious and he lost his swagger and the team has as well. It's bizarre to me. He's always had a ton of charisma and you know isn't very tense. He's just loose and fun and free and I don't know. So I think the expectations kind of got to Ole Miss, and the expectations weren't there for Arkansas this year. So they're playing with house money every week. It feels like, and to save their coach's job. But if Ole Miss loses this game, speaking of jobs, Lane Kiffin's seat gets a little hotter because
Yeah.
they put meaning Ole Miss, the administration, the collective, you know, the boosters put up a lot of money for him to go out and get him a team. This is the best team
Hmm.
he's had on paper. Um,
Hmm.
and the defense is actually decent. So that can't be the excuse anymore.
Yep.
And he hmm, he's got to win. He's got to keep winning. I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat. I'm just saying the seat gets a little hotter if he loses to Arkansas this week, even on the road.
Yep.
So, um, anyway, so moving right along, we've got Oregon favored by 15.5 going on the road to Michigan. Oh, Michigan, right?
Mm. Good old trusty.
And here's our so we have two games this week that we completely agree on, and these are probably we agree on the essentially the two best teams in the country right now, right?
Number one and number two.
Yeah, I mean we just have faith that number one and number two are gonna take care of business, even in rivalry-ish game for Oregon, Michigan, if that can become one, maybe.
Maybe.
I think Ohio State will probably be a bigger rival for Oregon moving forward. But you can't discount Michigan, They're they're not, they're not what they were last year, like we've talked about at nauseum, it seems like, but they're they're still a storied program. And the biggest thing for them, man, they've done the same thing that Florida's done, Michigan. Ping pong
Hmm.
back and forth between the quarterbacks, and then they lost the one that they went to second. So I just I don't think Michigan can put up any points worth of crap. And Oregon definitely can. They have the probably the leading Heisman candidate. Some say it's him, some say it's Cam Ward. Okay, flip a coin at this point. I don't care. Doesn't matter yet. Now the games matter. We're in November. So
Hmm.
um, let's let's see how you play from this point forward. To me, that really determines the Heisman race. But I just think Oregon's got too many dudes in you know, all the right key positions on the field, and they've got the way better quarterback. It's not even a
Close.
contest. Um, and Dan Lanning, we know we all love Dan Lanning because of what he did here at Georgia,
Yep.
and Oregon just rolls tomorrow, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I just no faith in Michigan. Um, Even if they're at home. I mean, just Oregon's got to look at that tape with Texas and just go off that, and you'll be fine.
Well, and I think they can exploit that even more than Texas could because
Oh, 100%.
they're more dynamic on offense. They're more dynamic at quarterback. They're more experienced at quarterback.
Yeah,
Um, they and they're just I'm not gonna say I don't know, it's hard to think. Is Oregon more physical than Texas? I don't know. Maybe they are. They definitely have a more physical minded head coach that expects that.
yeah.
Um, Sark wants to be physical, but he's an offensive coach. Dan
Hmm.
Lanning's a defensive coach, and he demands you to be physical.
Be
So there's a
physical,
little difference there, I think.
just like Kirby Smart.
Yeah. So yeah,
I don't know.
too
I don't know.
too much duck in Ann Arbor tomorrow, I think.
I agree. I agree.
All right, and getting on down to the bottom of our list here, we've got Texas A&M favored by 2.5 on the road at South Carolina, and I was shocked by this one right here. You, I, I've got to hold you and Dad to this, okay? All right, let's do
Hmm.
this. So few weeks back when South Carolina looked like they could be the Cinderella story and the darlings of the season in the SEC, right? Y'all kind of got me on board. I was like, okay, maybe so, maybe so. And then they just looked like just bad. Okay. They've looked bad, except for the game against Oklahoma. But how good is Oklahoma, right? And now I'll give it to them. That defense, they eat. They eat. And our boy D, shout out to
Hmm.
Demetrius, he's eating. They're doing great things on that defense. But all of that can be said about Texas A&M as well.
It's gonna be a good matchup,
I think
regardless.
I think so too. I mean, 2.5 is basically a pick 'em, right? So
Hmm.
y'all just think that at home South Carolina sneaks in a field goal and wins this game.
All right.
Probably, right? I mean, you go ahead, speak for yourself. Do you think this is going to be a blowout?
No, I think this is gonna be back and forth. Um, I feel like South Carolina can squeeze it out being at home. Because I know Texas A&M kind of struggles on the road a little bit every once in a while, throughout the season. Yes, they do have a new. They don't have Jimbo Fisher as their head coach. So they have I think, a better coach than what they've had in the past. So it could be different this time. So this game for me was, you know, kind of a toss up, but I was just like, you know what? This will be my one underdog for the week.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Dad did take Arkansas as his other underdog, and then he looking down, he took Pitt as well. But we'll get to that one in a second. So, but what I wanted to kind of hold y'all's feet to the fire on is the fact that, I mean, is this really? I mean, yeah, the line shows that it's going to be close, and they're both two very defensive, physical-minded teams, but Texas A&M has also shown the ability to just blow people's doors. I mean, yeah, South Carolina did it. I get it. Come at me. But like they did it against a team that couldn't freaking move the ball on offense, right? And Texas A&M isn't that. They've actually shown offensive competency. They've shown the ability to put drives together and score touchdowns or score quickly. You know, whatever's there. They got their quarterback healthy. They're in a rhythm, and dude, their backup quarterback's a true freshman, and he can sling the ball. So even if they have to go to him, to me, it's about the quarterback advantage in this game. And um, I'm not out on um, South Carolina's coach, Beamer. Obviously, he
Hmm.
comes from a great family of coaching, right? Son of Frank Beamer.
Hmm.
But Texas A&M's got a dang good coach.
They
And
do.
I think they know it and they picked the right guy. And I just think they're rolling right now. They're pretty much with a win here. I think they're a lock for the SEC championship game in Atlanta. It's all but over, as far as them being in it. So I just
This could be the game for Texas A&M though. That could swing it a whole different way too. You got to play both sides.
I mean
You
it
know,
could. I mean they could
it could help or it could not.
it
It just
could.
depends on how this goes.
You know, I'm not gonna say I can't see South Carolina win the game because I could. I know how tough it is for Georgia to go up there and play. Um,
Hmm.
I think Texas A&M's got too many things firing on all cylinders right now for them to lose. I do think it'll be close. I do. I think the line is right, but I I would lean Texas A&M here, and I am. So don't prove me wrong, Aggies. I need this one.
We'll see. We'll see for sure. I'm That's one of the games that I'm gonna try to watch for sure. Um, what time is that game? You know?
Yeah, I was just looking. That game is 7:30 ABC, so it's going to be right after our
Yeah.
game. So
Yeah.
just don't go anywhere. Start watching the Georgia game at 3:30 and just hang tight, because right after it, you've got another great matchup. So,
For sure.
well, and last but not least, we have SMU, new members of the ACC, and one of the leaders of the ACC. They're in the top 3 or 4 right now in the standings and going on the road, I mean, at home rather, favored by 7.5 against Pitt, who Pitt has kind of come out of nowhere this season. I say nowhere respectfully, but they still have Pat Narduzzi as their coach. He's a very physical, tough-minded guy. He expects a lot out of his team, like, some of the other coaches we've already mentioned on this show. So I just say out of nowhere because people kind of thought it was rebuild year for him.
Hmm.
And SMU is ranked in the top 25, and that's probably more of a shock than Pitt being ranked in the top 25, but this being a top 25 matchup is what I'm saying is kind of a kind of a shock that both teams are ranked. I guess I thought this would be one or the other ranked. But yeah, as y'all can see, Dad and Matthew went with Pitt. So you tell me why you went with Pitt, and I'll tell you why I went with SMU in this game.
Certainly. I definitely went with Pitt, just because, like you said, with their head coach, he's down and dirty, and he's very aggressive. Pitt has basically proven themselves in the ACC. I truly think it's going to be Pitt versus Clemson in the ACC championship game. Personally, just because how good Clemson is and just how good Pitt is proving themselves. Um, and I feel like Pitt has the advantage over SMU. Yes, SMU has been proving themselves as well because they are in the top 25 alongside with Pitt. So, with it being a top 25 matchup, just adds to it. So both of these teams um, are proving themselves, and this will just prove who's the better team at this point and who's proving themselves a little more than the other. So that's why I went with Pitt, in my opinion.
Well, here's why I went with SMU. I get that Pitt's getting points. I think uh, this line may be a little heavy on SMU, but I like a lot of what they're doing. I like their quarterback. I like their coach. I like how their first time Power Five, now it's Power Four. So they're in one of the Power Four conferences. They're first time members and they just went for it. But they also knew that they had the team that they could just, go in with some confidence, with swag, and just go for it, right? Um, And SMU, like I said, they're in the top 3 or 4 in the conference. They win this game, they're it's looking like it could be SMU Clemson or SMU Miami. Um, and that would be nuts. Pitt's also in the running, so this is a pivotal game. This is a swing game in the SEC for these two teams because only one of these two will get in. It won't be both. And they face each other. Clemson doesn't play Miami and vice versa. Clemson doesn't play um, SMU either. And I don't think Miami plays Pitt or SMU. So, like,
Checking that right now.
it's this is a pivotal game for these two teams, is what I'm trying to say. Like has to one of them
Right.
will win and one has to set themselves up for a trip to Charlotte for the ACC championship. And I just think SMU's got, even though Pitt's going to play really physically, they're going to have, a good defense. And they usually like to control the clock and grind it out on the ground. I just think SMU's got too much on offense. Their quarterback, their coach, and their offense is why they're laying 7.5 points. And I'm willing to do that because I I can see SMU winning this by two scores, two touchdowns, three scores, some maybe if they can get it rolling at home. And Pitt, doesn't travel much to the middle of the country, so this I just didn't think it's not that I don't think Pitt can win. I just didn't see many scenarios in which they win. They have to win pretty much one way, ground and pound and control the clock. So,
I think so too. Or I can agree with that. Um, so as far as for Pitt, after playing SMU this week, they'll have Virginia, Clemson, Louisville, Boston College. And then for SMU, they will finish out with Boston College, Virginia, Cal.
see, they avoid SMU would have
Mm,
avoided the big two, Miami and
mm,
Clemson. They would only face
mm,
them in the championship game. So that's why I'm saying SMU wins this game. You can almost envision them being in the
mm,
championship game.
mm.
Pitt still has to play Clemson, and I can't pick Pitt to beat Clemson right now. I just I can't. So it's more of a must
Right.
win for Pitt tomorrow, but I don't know. I think
It definitely it's gonna be an interesting one for sure. Because I feel like either Miami or Pitt or SMU is gonna be the matchup against Clemson.
so.
If
You
my
think
if
Clemson's there? You think Clemson's
I
already in?
I think Clemson is because they're already 5-0 in the conference, so they truly only need to win one more conference game, in my opinion.
Well, I
Unless
mean,
unless it's Pitt beating them, then that's a different story. But um, I mean, if Clemson continues to win out and do their thing like they have been all season, it comes down to these two teams in Miami to finish out what they need to do. But it is definitely just it's similar to how the SEC is. It's kind of like a toss up. There's one team that's kind of like a higher for sure going to be in it, and then there's three, four teams that could be the opponent, and you never know. So, these two conferences are going through similar things right now. So, I would say for me personally, I don't know if you can agree with this, but I think that these six that we've picked this week or Dan picked out for us, I think these are the best six that we've had as far as matchups go.
yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, but that also speaks to the point of the season we're in. We're in week
Yeah.
10. That's, actually week 11 technically now because we have week 0. So
Hmm.
some teams will have played 9 or 10 games and have a later bye. But anyway, most teams have played 8. This will be their ninth, or this will be their eighth game, so we're later in the season and it's November now. Like I said earlier, it's time to It's time to hit the stretch run and hit
Play
your
some ball.
stride, play ball, play your game, and make your run at a championship. So, um, yeah, we will see. I'm excited for this week of games. It'll be very fun to watch for sure.
100%. I definitely can't wait. Um, I wish I wasn't working tomorrow so I could see all these games, But I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for these games while I'm working because it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a crazy week. A lot of moving is gonna happen for sure. I saw it, especially in top 10 potentially, or really top five because you got one, two, three, and four all playing some very competitive. Well, besides Georgia, um, playing some competitive teams.
Yeah, you got
So
three versus four with Penn State, Ohio State, and then you got
Oregon,
Georgia and Oregon. Oregon going on the road,
hmm
another
to
test,
Michigan.
and then Georgia does have a test. I mean, it's a rivalry game.
It is
Anything
a
can
test,
happen.
but yeah, yeah. But but it's we're on two different. Florida's down here, where we're up here as far as how we're playing. But at, I've said this all year. Gotta play the game first.
You do.
Got to.
Yeah. Well, with that, that's kind of a good way to wrap things up tonight. You do have to play the game, so um, we will see how it all turns out and I will definitely be enjoying it tomorrow. Hate that you can't catch them all, but yeah, I'll keep you updated if you want. Keep an eye on the scores and stuff. Um, and you know, hate that we missed Dad tonight, but this was fun. Enjoyed it.
Hmm.
It's been a while since you and I had done a show, just the two of us. So thanks for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. I saw we had a steady few viewers yet again, so that's awesome. Thank you for tuning in now, and thank you if you tune in the future. We definitely appreciate all the support as always. If you like what we're doing, give us a like, subscribe, turn on notifications so that you know when the heck we come on. Because
Right.
last week it's been helter skelter, but and like I've been asking, and apparently it's working, right? Share with 5 or 10 of your friends, work friends, school friends, whoever. If they like college sports, if they don't, whatever, we welcome everyone. We will definitely, appreciate the more views that we get and the more eyeballs we have, the more fun it'll be. So, and y'all definitely put your comments in the chat and comment us later. We will always respond. That always makes it more fun. So we do appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being on here, Matthew. And it was a good night. Everyone have a great Friday night and a great Saturday watching football. We'll see y'all on Sunday to recap everything and to give our rankings. And as we always say on here, go dogs.
Go dogs.